Welcome to WorkSpan TV. I'm WorldatWork's Ryan Johnson. I'm joined in the studio today by Diane Auld. Diane, you're a longtime WorldatWork faculty member. I know you're a compensation consultant in South Africa. I really want to talk for the next few minutes about the state of reward and remuneration in South Africa for our North American audience. Diane, what are some things that practitioners in North America might have to think about as their company expands into South Africa? If they have new responsibilities in South Africa, what are a couple things they might need to be thinking about?
One of the most significant things you need to be aware of is that in America you tend to focus mostly on cash. Most of your surveys are around cash and the focus is always on getting the cash right. Whereas in South Africa we very much work, more than 80% of companies work on a flexible total package offering. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, Ryan, you're going to come and join us. We're going to give you 300,000 Rand a year. From there, you then allocate to various benefits. So you may have some mandatory benefits. So they might say, well, you need to contribute at least 6% to the retirement fund. You need to buy so much life cover and you need to at least have basic health care. But over and above that, you could purchase additional retirement funding, additional life cover, a more luxurious healthcare option, and you could allocate to a company car, to a gym membership, etc. And then what is left over is your cash. So the basic salary really becomes just what's left over once you've allocated out of your package. So people don't really focus at all on the basic salary, except at very low levels. They focus on what is the guaranteed package, and the basic salary becomes almost meaningless. So people don't focus on the cash, they focus on the package.
But it really sounds like it's a total rewards concept, the way WorldatWork talks about total rewards.
It is a total rewards concept. So from there, you would allocate to all of your different benefits. So it is really looking at it from a total rewards point of view, yes.
I know the unions are very prominent in South Africa. Maybe you can spend a minute talking about that.
We have very, very strong unions there, and it is something you need to be aware of. For example, Walmart going into South Africa faced huge opposition from the unions. In fact, they took them to court, tried to actually stop Walmart going in, lost fortunately. But they felt that Walmart was anti-unions and was likely to retrench people. So the unions are very strong, very powerful. And you must realize the government in South Africa is made up of a tripartite alliance. So you've got the African National Congress, the Communist Party, and COSATU, which is the umbrella body for the union. So they actually form part of the government. So they are very, very strong. And sometimes there's a slightly adversarial relationship. They often go out on strikes. So you really do need to factor that in, that you're going to have a lot of union pressure and you need to have a dedicated sort of employment relations department that will deal with that. So that is a big issue that you need to deal with there.
What about salary increase budgets? I know in WorldatWork is about to release our salary increase budget survey again, showing about 2.8 to 3%. How have salary increase budgets been in South Africa recently?
At the moment they're around 7%, and they've remained in that sort of 6 to 8% range for quite a while now. I would say about the last 5 to 10 years. It's interesting because although inflation has gone up higher than that, up to sometimes 12, 13%, sometimes down as low as 1, 2%, they've kind of stayed very consistently in about that 6 to 8%, occasionally up to 9% range. And again, the unions factor into that because they put a lot of pressure looking for double-digit increases, often getting 8 or 9%, and that obviously has a knock-on effect on salaried staff increases. The government's been a little bit concerned that increases have tended to remain above the inflation rate, but they're very stubborn. They're always in about that 6 to 8% range, and they tend to remain consistently around there. But also for salaried staff, quite strongly differentiated for performance. So you are able to do quite a significant performance differentiation, obviously, when you've got more to play with. So you'll find people going down as low as 0%, for poor performers, and up to maybe 10 or 12% for their really strong performers.
The concept of market pricing in the U.S. obviously very prominent. I know you've taught the WorldatWork courses for many years. How is that concept received in South Africa? Is it similar to the U.S. or is it very different?
Very different. We tend to operate very, very strongly on a job content approach to job evaluation. In fact, the market pricing model is virtually unheard of. And when I actually teach it in the WorldatWork courses, people are, wow, you price a job based on what the market says, not on the job content. It's a completely alien concept to people, and they're quite astonished that when I say to them, well, 80% plus of companies do this, operate on this model in North America, people are quite astonished. Because there's about 5 or 6 job evaluation systems that are very, very strong. Almost everybody uses them. And because they're so strong, the salary surveys all produce data by those grades. So it makes our life quite easy because you grade the jobs based on Paramnes or Patterson or one of those systems, and then you go to the salary survey and you say, well, this job is a Patterson D lower, and there's the salary survey. It tells you that's what you pay a Patterson D lower. So you don't even have to go and price jobs. You can actually go and find data exactly by grades.
Terrific summary of some of the different practice areas. What about some of the hot topics that are happening in South Africa at the moment or the last year or so?
Well, one of the big hot topics has been something called the King 3 Commission, which is principles that have been promulgated around how you should structure executive pay. It's not compulsory, but there's a strong advisory aspect to it. So there's been a flurry of activity around compliance with the King 3 Commission. So they've produced guidelines on which executives' pay should be published in your annual report, what the kind of performance criteria you can be using for executive pay, around share schemes. So they've given guidelines. They don't want shares to be issued, only once every 3 years. They want annual issue of share schemes. They want staggered vesting. They want to focus more on share grants rather than share options. They want a much bigger focus on the remuneration committees. There's been a lot of education of remuneration committees. They now have responsibility for vetting the whole remuneration policy for the company, so a much stronger role. So there's just been a lot of work in terms of trying to get compliance with the King 3 Commission. Another area that we've been focusing a lot on is there's been a change in taxation on company cars and car allowances, which are very common in South Africa. So again, I've been doing a lot of work with companies rewriting their car policies. You now have to keep a logbook around mileage, so just rewriting policies to make them compliant with the new tax legislation. So that's been a lot of work recently. And also, the recession didn't impact South Africa as strongly as it did North America and Europe. So we've still got a lot of issue around scarce skills. We have very, very stringent employment equity legislation. So we have actual targets that we have to reach for employment equity over a period of time. You are audited on it every year. So that means that people are chasing quite a few scarce skills. And because of that, it's quite interesting. I think people increasingly realize that you can't just do it with cash, because what happens is they give someone a retention bonus and then someone else buys it up with a sign-on bonus, and then there's just a lot of money chasing a few people. So increasingly I think there's a realization that if you really want to get and keep those skills, you really need to focus on total rewards. So a big focus on the fact that you really need to offer great work challenges and development and career opportunities, and you need to have good work life and recognition of performance. So it's a strong focus to realize if you really want to get those skills, you have to look at the total reward. You can't just do it on cash.
Well, Diane, obviously some things are very similar between South Africa and practices in North America. Some things are very different. So I think what you've just talked about has been a terrific service to some of our members in North America. I want to thank Diane Auld, longtime WorldatWork faculty member and contributor in a variety of ways. Diane, thanks again for coming in to talk today about practices in South Africa. And for WorkSpan TV and WorldatWork, I'm Ryan Johnson.